Okay, all right. Welcome to South Alabama. Steph and I are down here for a grower group show for the Southern Living Plant Collection, Encore Azaleas, Butterfly Candy, Better Boxwood, the Sunset Plant Collection. They're showing off some of the new things that are coming in the future, and then showing off some of the things that are actually being released now, and we'll show you a couple of those things as we go. These little blue flags, you might see some blue flags and a couple things. This was folks, nurserymen that were down here kind of voting for some of their favorite plants that they were seeing that were new to them or whatever today. Can't talk about this Encore Azalea yet. This is the next one in line, but growers are just starting to grow this one out. It's going to be a big deal, and I think you can see it over there. Again, we're just not going to talk about it today. But Autumn Kiss is going to be available. There may be some availability even this fall, but I doubt it. Probably next spring you'll see more of this one. This thing is a blooming machine, and I've seen this at shows that I've been at over the last couple of years, and it just stops people in their tracks. This flower is so unique. It's just doing so many different things. Here's an example of that, where you can see, I'll pull one of these off, doesn't really matter at this point, but you can see all the variability across these flowers. Again, spring blooming and then fall blooming as well. We're filming this in November, and that's when they're blooming down here in Alabama. But that's Autumn Kiss, and I think that makes like 36 varieties or something in Encores, but this one's definitely unique. That variegated flower is super, super unique. Not going to talk about this first group of camellias right here, but they're coming in the future. They're a little small because they're so new. But this is Early Wonder camellia, which we have shown off for a few years on the channel. This is basically a fall blooming Camellia japonica. We think about Camellia japonicas typically being blooming in February, March, maybe even into April in most areas. But this thing actually starts blooming before the Camellia sasanquas start blooming in the fall. So typically we'll see a flower on this one first cool night, even in September, October in the garden in Raleigh. So I'm sure ours has some flowers on it now. We're heading home from filming this. And again, the rest of those camellias back there we'll be talking about over the next couple of years. There's some really crazy, interesting camellias coming that bloom at unusual times, which is kind of the fun part about that. This is a hydrangea that I think there'll be limited availability on for the next couple of seasons, and then I think this one's going to be everywhere. This one's called Blast from the Pastel. I'm hyping this one a little too early, so keep in mind that you probably won't be able to find this yet. But once you do, it's just going to be everywhere. Steph and I have one of these in the garden, and it bloomed 4 inches tall. It was this tall and had a flower on it that's almost equal to the rest of the plant. And then it blooms and blooms and blooms and blooms. And here we are literally in November. The other cool thing I want you to notice is Cercospora, which is the leaf spot that we get, the leaf spotting that we get on big leaf hydrangeas like this. And typically by November, if you're going to have Cercospora, they just be eaten up with it, right? You see how clean this foliage is. That's one of the things I'm blown away with this plant. This plant is just so different. No spotting on the leaves and pretty much always in flower. So shades of blue and pink and all those kinds of colors depending on your soil pH and all those kinds of things. This is a plant we've shown off a couple times now. There's finally going to be availability on it. This is Tokyo Skies Aspidistra, or cast iron plant. Those of you in zone 5, 6, 7A can grow this as a house plant, bring it in and out during the growing season. Those of us in zones 7B, 8, 9, 10, it's an outdoor plant for the shade, incredibly drought tolerant, and this may be the most showy Aspidistra I've ever seen, because normally the spotted ones are just, here's a spot, there's a spot, there's a spot. The striped ones are, oh, there's a little stripe, there's a little something. This thing, every single one of them looks like this. And it won an award last year or year before last, as this was first being introduced to the growers. It won a Retail Choice Award. I mean, even the retailers that came around and saw this thing were like, whoa, when can we have it? when can we get it? So that's a great one. This plant, Steph and I have been excited about for a couple years, and we really haven't shown it on the channel at all because, again, limited availability. But this is silver carex, and so we know soft carex, mahonia. This one has a slightly thicker leaf, slightly different texture from soft carex, but it holds up incredibly well. Steph and I have had this in almost full sun on the front of the house for 2 years. We got a cluster of 3 of them, and they bloom like this from fall right through winter. And then they have this really great blue-green foliage on them. Incredibly tough plant. I think silver carex is going to, I think it's going to be widely available and widely sold. I think a lot of the, you can see the flags. So this was the indication that you know, the growers were in here and were excited about this one. This is a new colocasia that's coming, Tropical Paradise. One of the things with this one, and we've seen tons of new colocasia over the last few years, and we have 3 or 4 of them in our garden. We have Redemption, and I won't remember the other ones right off the bat. One thing with this one was always going to make homeowners happy, but it wasn't. One of the problems with these variegated colocasias is that sometimes they don't color up in the nursery. When they're small plants in small pots, if I tell you that the center of that leaf is going to turn bright red, or it's going to be variegated, or it's going to be splotched, or whatever it's going to be, if it's not already doing that in the container, nobody's going to buy it. And so this one, where growers are really going to be excited about it, is the leaf unfolds and there it is. You don't have to leaf unfold, wait 4 weeks for the action to take place. So I think that one's going to be a really good one. Steph's got to get in here though. I think the coolest thing about this plant is the stems on it. Look at the interesting coloration. It's also got this really thick, very thick stems on it, but also it has this almost wood-like pattern on the stems. So excited about that one. Then heading over to the next space for the Southern Living Plant Collection. This is mini touch, and so we know soft touch hollies, which are very dwarf Japanese hollies that in the landscape maybe get 2.5, 3 feet tall, 2.5, 3 feet wide. This is mini touch, which this is going to be a great container plant. You're looking for a small space garden plant, just kind of a low maintenance, little ball, perfect again, perfect for a container, perfect for a small little knot garden where you're trying to just, you know, line plants up into some sort of formal space. Just really easy. And Japanese hollies are just easy in general, and that is just a slower growing version of it where you're just never going to have to do any maintenance to it. You put that in the right place. We've seen touch of gold holly. This is the gold Hugendorn holly. Growers continue to be, more and more the growers are picking this plant up and growing it. And you can keep this 2 feet in height, 3 to 4 feet in width. It'll get bigger than that if you just let it in the future, but really a pretty easy, straightforward plant. And here we are in November, and this is what it looks like. You may have seen the video at this point for Better Boxwood, where we actually went to Belgium and met the breeder, DJ, and he was here. When Steph and I left that meeting with him, I was so impressed with hearing the story that greenhouse is going to be making a little noise over here. His greenhouse fan, it's inflating. It's cold down here. I don't know how we brought cold to South Alabama, but it was 32 degrees last night as we're filming this. They have a little inflator that inflates the plastic on here and puts a little insulation bubble on the house. That's the fan you might hear. So, but anyway, when we were so impressed with that meeting and him telling us the story of Better Boxwood and all the breeding that actually went into this, and it's not just saying it's blight resistant, but actually having scientific evidence that it's not just blight resistant, pretty much blight proof as far as we can tell. He's literally introducing it into plants even now just to see, to make sure they won't get it. But when we left that meeting, I was like, he's got to come and talk to this grower group meeting. So he flew here, and I was excited to spend some more time with DJ. He's such a nice gentleman. And here's the 4 varieties of Better Boxwood. We have a video, and I guess this one will probably be before that, but we have one from the Palace in the the Queen's Garden at the Palace in the east part of the Netherlands that's going to go up, and all of these better boxwoods have been included in the garden at Versailles. As they're replacing their boxwoods from boxwood blight, we're seeing these as the replacements for them. But Renaissance, Babylon Beauty. Babylon Beauty gets domed. So I'll go through them real quick. If you want a tiny little boxwood that you never have to do any pruning to, Renaissance, 1x2, 1x2. Babylon Beauty is going to get slightly wider than tall, so a low doming boxwood. Heritage is very, very upright and narrow. Perhaps has become my favorite one in our garden in Raleigh. And then Skylight is anything you want it to be. It can grow from 3 feet to 8 feet tall, and cone shaped or whatever you want to do with it. But you can see the difference between the 4 of them. And so it was nice catching up with DJ here in South Alabama. The other breeder we actually visited with was Jim Coate in Eastern Netherlands while we were there, and that video on butterfly candy has gone up at this point. There's 2 new ones coming. I don't know how, I'm assuming these will be at retail pretty quick because they're fast enough growing, and I think the growers were super excited about these. This is Lil Cerise, so they're all Lil something, and there's, you know, so far there was 5 of them. That's Lil Cerise, and then probably this one is really going to sell like crazy. This is a little magenta. This is the 2 new ones that are being added. You see them in white pots here, but they'll be matched. Most of the growers will match the pot to the container, so it'll be coming in a purple pot, and this one will be coming in kind of a pinkish pot. But meeting with him, that video's up on the channel if you want to take a look at it. Same thing with the Better Boxwood video if you want to learn more about the breeding on these new butterfly candy butterfly bushes. I think the marketing is great. The size of the plants are great. You see all those blue flags? This was definitely, I think this may have the most blue flags in it. I think this was the plant that a lot of the growers were kind of most excited about. Again, they grow quick enough that I think they'll be at retail pretty quickly. We all know by now Feather Falls Carex. We've talked about it a ton over time. There's actually a few more coming. This is Moon Falls, which is kind of the reverse variegation of Feather Falls. And you see the bright white in the center. It weeps like crazy. It's interesting growth habit. It's a slightly different growth habit than Feather Falls. It's still a fast grower and everything, but you can see how much it weeps over the container.
As does Ribbon Falls.
And as does, yeah, Ribbon Falls is the green version of this, and it also weeps like crazy. So good looking plant. We have this plant in a container this year. I don't know how much we've talked about it, but this is a new lamandra called Miner's Gold. It's under a bit of shade here, so it's lost a little bit of that. But if you look at the sign, that's closer to what it looks like in our garden in the container. For those of us in the eastern part of the country, these are going to need sharp drainage. And so we have ours in a container with chunky pine bark in it, so it won't drown during the winter time. They're fairly cold hardy. I mean, zone 8, zone 7B on this particular species, as long as it's, again, not staying wet during the winter time. Folks in the Southwest put it in the ground, you know, and just, you know, as long as the soil drains well. It's a plant, you kind of a plant and forget kind of a thing. But these lamandras are just great landscape plants for the Southwest. This is an exciting new one. I've seen this plant now for a couple of years. This is a new yucca. There are other variegated yuccas like this on the market, been on the market for a long time. These things are hardy in like zone 4 to 10. So literally everybody watching can grow them. It doesn't look like a plant you could grow in zone 4, but it is. This is a yucca filamentosa, and you see filamentosa is the perfect name for this species. It has these little filaments along the leaves. This one has this blue hue to it. It's like a blue-green coloration with a kind of a butter yellow center on the leaf. When it's up against other variegates, you can really see the difference. The other thing with this one is it doesn't revert. As far as we know, this one's had no reversion in it. Some of the other variegated ones, 2-3 years in the ground, all of a sudden they're throwing up green stems all over the place. This is Texas sage. There's 5, I think, are in this series. Those of you in Dallas and San Antonio, Fort Worth, and further west, these are just fantastic all summer flowering shrubs for you. And believe that we'll even see these more and more in the east as time goes on. Want to mound them up a bit if you are, because the winter wet could cause them some potential problems. Definitely want to show off this big giant Platinum Beauty lamandra. It's just a fantastic plant. We leave ours as a container plant, and we can bring it in and off the porch during the winter. It just doesn't want to stay wet during the winter time. Everybody south of us, down here to the Gulf, can put it in the ground, and definitely a great plant in the desert Southwest for sure. There's a tacoma back here called Little Gold Star, and these are hardy in zone 8 to 10, so we can definitely try them in our Raleigh garden. Probably need a little bit of protection, but this one gets more like 4x4. They bloom nonstop every time we see. This is a really great piece of breeding in Tacoma, and I think this one's going to be pretty wildly popular, definitely in the desert Southwest and down here into the Gulf area. And then just looking at the rest of this house, you can see all of these beautiful things. There's that aspidistra in a giant pot right there. Imagine if you're in zone 4, zone 5, you bring this out on the patio during the summertime, and when it's time to get a frost or a freeze, you bring it back in and it can stay as a house plant during the winter time. There's a plectranthus here. Lots of trial plants in this house that they're looking at for future release. A ton of agapanthus, all these ever series agapanthus just continue to bloom. And here we are in November with some of them still throwing up, almost Thanksgiving in November actually. So there you go, there's the setup. A lot of the nurserymen that grow plants for the Southern Living Plant Collection, Encore and Sunset Plant Collection and Butterfly Candy, Better Boxwood, they were all here. And as soon as they went to another section of the nursery stuff, and I jumped in and wanted to film a few of these exciting things. Again, sorry if a few things I mentioned are going to be a little difficult to find for a year or so, but sometimes it takes a minute. But I can see the flags are fairly well distributed all the way up the line. I think that there was at least somebody, some nurseries that were excited about pretty much everything that was in this really cool selection. We also saw another selection of plants that people were voting on that are stuff for 2 or 3 years from now, and really spectacular things coming. The plant breeders are just amazing now, what things that we can see out in the future, where the future is going with some of these plants, that making them more floriferous, making them better for pollinators, making them better for all kinds of things, making them more drought resistant, sun resistant, all those kinds of things. So thank you guys so much for following along with our travels. By the time you see this, we're going to be back in Raleigh. Thanks for watching.